Alright, let's talk about open source licenses. No, wait, forget the stuffy legal lectures. Today, we're getting into the real talk, the drama, the dev tea behind the code you use every single day.
You know, it really all boils down to one fundamental question. When you put your code out there for the world, are you actually giving a gift, or are you maybe setting a trap? The license you pick, that's what decides the answer.
So, first up, let's meet our main characters. We've got the MIT and BSD licenses. This is what we'll call the chill club of open source. MIT is the definition of zero fuss. I mean, the gossip is that it's a total pushover. And BSD? Think of it as MIT's slightly pickier cousin. It wants a little more like a clause saying you can't use the author's name to endorse your own stuff, but, you know, they've both got that same low drama vibe.
So, why does everyone seem to love this chill club so much? We're diving into the do-whatever licenses. For years, these have pretty much been the default choice, and honestly, there are some really good reasons for that.
The appeal really just breaks down into three things. First, they're antiviral, and don't worry, we'll get to what that means in a sec. Second, they are super corporate friendly, which is a huge deal. And third, the only thing you really have to do is just keep the copyright notice. That's it. It's the bare minimum.
Okay, so what is this viral thing I mentioned? Well, it's talking about copyleft licenses, like the super famous GPL. The idea is, if you use even one tiny little piece of GPL code, its viral nature can basically infect your entire project, forcing you to adopt the same restrictive terms.
And you hear stories like this one from the dev world all the time. It illustrates that fear perfectly. It's the kind of cautionary tale that spreads like wildfire. Just the threat of a lawsuit or being forced to open source your company's secret sauce, it makes developers run for the safety of an MIT license. For corporate lawyers, it's an absolute dream.
And this all gets down to a really fundamental difference in philosophy. Copyleft licenses, like the GPL, they're basically saying, hey, if you use our stuff, your creation has to be shared under the same rules. But permissive licenses, like MIT, they just say, take our code. Seriously, we do not care what you do with it. Go build a billion-dollar company. Have fun.
And that whole do-whatever attitude, that leads us straight into the second major benefit. You could say that permissive licenses are basically the gateway drug for getting corporations to use open source.
Right? And here's the insider tip you hear constantly. If your main goal is maximum reach, if you want your project to be used by the Googles and the Microsofts of the world, then MIT is your golden ticket. Companies just love it because there are almost no legal strings attached.
Okay, so the case seems pretty solid, right? You avoid all the legal drama. The big companies love them, they offer total freedom. I mean, they're the obvious choice for any new project, aren't they?
Wow. Think again, because that freedom, it comes at a price, a very steep and often pretty hidden price.
So now, let's flip the coin. Let's explore the dark side of being permissive. This is what some people call the ultimate betrayal of the whole open source spirit.
The number one problem is something called the proprietary fork. This is when a company takes your free community-built code, adds their own secret features on top, and then sells it for a profit, all without ever contributing those awesome improvements back.
The whole Chromium and Google Chrome story is the classic case study here. Here's how it plays out. The community builds an amazing open-source browser, Chromium. Google comes along, takes that code, adds its own secret proprietary stuff, and releases it as Chrome. Now Google completely dominates the market, while the original project gets none of those valuable improvements back.
You can really feel the emotional impact in the slang that developers use for this. It feels like they took your baby, dressed it up in a suit, and now it's out there making them millions. It's the ultimate thanks for everything and goodbye kind of move.
And this leads us right into the second major problem with being too permissive. You just don't build any community muscle. Your project can actually end up stagnating because all the coolest new improvements are happening behind closed corporate doors.
You know, the perfect analogy for this is a community potluck. A copyleft license is like a mandatory potluck. If you come to the party, you have to bring a dish to share. But a permissive license? That's an open invitation where you can just show up, eat all the food, and even take the leftovers home, all without ever having to contribute a thing.
And finally, there's a deeper, more technical trap that a lot of developers don't even think about: the patent issue. Now, this is a real legal deep cut, but it really matters for serious projects. See, MIT and BSD are kind of old-school licenses. They were written way before software patents became this huge legal battlefield, so they don't even mention them at all. And that creates a potential legal loophole.
It's exactly why a lot of modern projects and big companies prefer a license like Apache 2.0, which explicitly adds a patent grant to close that gap.
So after all that drama, what's the big takeaway? Well, it's not that one license is good and another is bad. It's about realizing that choosing a license, it's a strategic choice, and it depends entirely on what your final goal for your project actually is. This really brings you to a fork in the road. If your goal is maximum adoption, especially by big corporations, and you honestly don't care if they share their improvements back, then you go permissive. But if your goal is to protect the code's freedom and force everyone to contribute back to the community, well, then you join the copyleft crew.
Because in the end, a license isn't just a text file. It's a statement about your values. So the next time you share a project, you have to ask yourself, what kind of future are you choosing to build?